Carrie Nixon had been working as a waitress at a small roadhouse outside Montana for more than 10 years when she became involved in a chilling event that will make you hold your breath. Carrie was one of the most experienced waitresses in the Happy Break restaurant, only surpassed by her boss and founder of the establishment, Charlie, and the cook who was about to reach retirement age but was reluctant to stop working. That made Carrie the example to be followed by the rest of the temporary employees who came and went in the restaurant. She was the visible face of the restaurant, and her kindness and good treatment made her someone indispensable and loved by all. Nixon was aware that she devoted more hours to her work than to her personal life, which lacked many of the things one expects to have when one turns 40. She had not married, nor did she plan to do so in the short or long term, nor did she have children or a steady partner, and her greatest possession was a small apartment that she had managed to pay for with her meager salary at the restaurant and an old Chevrolet truck inherited from her father that she had restored. Her whole life was spent in that little place she considered her home and where she had experienced so many things, most of them good, otherwise she would have left by now. However, the waitress would soon live a very unpleasant experience in her beloved restaurant, something she had never had to face before, but for which she felt more than prepared. The day had started normally, spring was coming to an end, and temperatures were beginning to rise rapidly, causing the flow of tourists to gradually increase and with it, the restaurant's diners. The Happy Break, with its rustic and cozy decor, was already full before noon. Families on vacation, truckers on their long routes, and couples looking for a quick break found a comfortable refuge there. The smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the aroma of homemade cakes and grilled sandwiches, creating a very cozy atmosphere. And in the midst of it all, there was Carrie, smilingly circulating among the tables, taking orders, serving dishes and making sure all the customers were satisfied. She knew the routine well: orders of strong coffees for those who needed to stay awake on the road, juices and sandwiches for the children playing in their seats, and the chef's choice for the more indecisive. Today we have a really delicious chocolate peanut brownie dessert. Try it, you won't regret it. It's probably the best brownie in all of Montana, but it's a secret. That's why you have to come all the way here to discover it. She advised those who were not sure what to choose. As she worked, she watched the people, imagining the stories behind each face. She had been working there so long that some faces were familiar to her, frequent travelers who always made a stop there. Others, on the other hand, were unknown to her, people she would probably never see again, but whom she liked to observe as she tried to guess what their lives would be like. She liked this dynamic, absurd as it might seem, a constant mix of stories and paths that intersected in a small Montana roadside diner. It was the life she had chosen to live, and she was content with it. She could have devoted herself to so many other things, but she chose to stay there in a remote place that probably no one would remember, but that for her was her whole world. But then there was something that disturbed the calm of the place and got the waitress's full attention. A family that had just arrived in a black car, in pretty bad shape, entered the restaurant and sat down at the farthest table of all. They looked like a normal family on a trip. At that time, the restaurant saw hundreds of similar families passing by. But there was something in the way the girl moved that caught Carrie's attention and prevented her from taking her eyes off her. There was hesitation, a subtle awkwardness in their movements that did not go unnoticed by the experienced waitress, who could not take her eyes off them. When they sat down, the waitress smiled at them, trying to appear normal, ready to offer them the menu and take their order. However, something inside her told her that she had to be alert and that they were hiding something very bad, although it was impossible to know to what extent her suspicions would be true. Take a deep breath and be kind. It's probably just your imagination. It wouldn't be the first time, the waitress said to herself, trying to hide her nerves as she cautiously approached the table where the family was seated. As she reached them, she smiled at the family seated at the table, picked up her notepad to write down their orders, and, with her usual kindness, asked, "What would you like today? We have delicious new dishes on the menu and a delicious chocolate dessert. I'm sure the little girl will love it," she suggested gently, looking at the girl and then at the parents for some sign of approval. But what she got was just the opposite. "The girl doesn't need to eat chocolate. I'll have a hamburger and fries, and they'll have 2 light sandwiches with a little salad and a juice. That's enough, and hurry up," he said, looking intimidatingly at the waitress and looking sideways at the woman and the girl, who avoided looking at him and seemed to be very scared. Carrie tried to remain calm as she took note of everything, and before turning around to go back to the kitchen, she glanced sideways at the wife and daughter. The wife looked tired and sad, and the little girl, who was barely 6 years old, was crestfallen and seemed to have lost all illusion, and there was not a shred of joy in her. "Don't worry, sir. I'll tell them to prepare their food as quickly as possible," she told him, trying to remain calm as she walked away from the table with her heart in her fist. The tension at the table was completely visible, and Carrie felt a growing discomfort as she watched their interaction. As she approached the counter, Carrie had a bad feeling and felt the need to alert her boss so they could be prepared. "Charlie, have you seen that family that just arrived? There's something very strange about them. The man is very arrogant and the wife and daughter look scared. I don't know. I have a bad feeling. I think we should keep an eye out for what might happen," she said worriedly, looking down at the table. Her boss looked at the table and after a few moments of hesitation tried to reassure his employee and make her understand that her job was not to solve family problems, but to attend to the customers and serve them the food. "Carrie, sometimes people have their bad days. Every family has days when no one seems to get along and they are in a bad mood. But keep an eye on them just in case. You can never be too safe. You just act normal and try to keep a lid on it, okay?" Charlie suggested as he continued wiping the counter. Carrie nodded, unconvinced, and went on with her work. 5 minutes later, still nervous and not quite knowing how to deal with the situation, Carrie returned to the table, handing the burger and fries to the husband, who was still silently staring out the window with a disgruntled gesture. "Here's your order, sir. Your wife and daughter's sandwiches will be ready shortly," she said, trying to hide her concern. The man just grunted in response and didn't even look at her. The woman and the girl did not even dare to look up. They were really terrified. Carrie felt more and more nervous and could not help thinking that something very bad was about to happen. And she was right. After returning to the counter to pick up the mother and daughter's snack order, Carrie again witnessed a terrible family scene that she wished she had never had to see. The little girl, who had been silent and crestfallen since they had arrived, stood up slightly and with restless eyes and a trembling voice asked her mother if she could go to the bathroom. "Can I go pee, Mom? I've been holding it in for hours and my tummy hurts. Please, Mommy," begged the little girl. The woman, with a tired look on her face and her eyes lowered, looked hesitantly at her husband as if she was afraid to say anything, and finally asked him in a trembling voice, "Harry, honey, can I take her to the bathroom? We've been on the road for many hours and she's a little girl. She needs to go do her needs. Please." Carrie already knew what her husband's answer would be. "No, you're staying here," he said sternly without even looking at them, hoping no one would hear him. But the truth is that he raised his voice more than necessary, and several of the diners turned to look at them, which made the husband more angry and increased the tension between the three of them. However, the woman did not give up, and fighting for her daughter's welfare, she answered bluntly, "Do you want to have to stop on the way for her to relieve herself? I think that will attract more attention than going to the bathroom in a restaurant. Here's a bathroom. It'll be 5 minutes. It's easier. We all win," she said sternly as she hugged her daughter tightly. "That's fine, but if you take more than 5 minutes, I'll be the one to bring you back to the table," shouted the man, his face unhinged with anger. Carrie was shocked as she watched the scene. If at first she had a slight feeling that there was something strange going on in that family, now she had no doubt about it. However, what was going to happen next, no one sees coming. Not even her. Mother and daughter hurried to the bathroom, where they had to wait longer than usual because it was quite crowded, and there was not even a free toilet for the girl to pee. "Mom, I really have to go now. Otherwise I'll pee my pants. It hurts so much and I don't want to get dirty. You know how angry Daddy gets every time that happens to me," said the little girl to her mother, very distressed. "Calm down, my love. It will be our turn soon, okay? I need to go to the bathroom too. You'll go in first and then I'll go in, okay? Everything will be fine, honey," said the mother, kissing her forehead to calm her down. The husband, seeing that they did not return, did not hesitate to get up from the table and try to enter the women's bathroom to look for them. Seeing the man's intentions and seeing clearly what was happening in that family, Carrie decided to intervene and protect the two women. She knew she was taking a big risk and that it was not her duty, but she could not continue to watch without doing anything. It was too painful. "Open the door, right now!" growled the husband, looking towards the door of the ladies' room with an expression of growing irritation and pointing his finger at the waitress. Carrie couldn't believe what was happening and was truly terrified. That man seemed very aggressive, and she knew that his pulse would not tremble if she provoked him. Still, she was undeterred, and calmly she answered him, "You can't come in here, sir. Go back to the table. Your daughter and wife will be right out. Please go back to your seat, if you don't want to." But before she could finish the sentence, the bathroom door opened, and out came the wife and daughter in a hurry. Seeing what was happening, the woman apologized first to her husband and then to Carrie, but her husband would not let her continue talking. He grabbed her arm forcefully and pulled her violently toward the table. The girl stood back waiting and then followed them, but in that brief instant, she had time to throw Carrie a look of distress and show her the palm of her left hand. What the waitress saw left her speechless, and was the answer she had been waiting for since she had seen that family walk through the door of the restaurant. As she opened her hand, the girl showed her a huge X drawn in red lipstick on her palm. That was the sign Carrie had been waiting for, and she knew exactly what she should do next. That symbol was a distress call that was often used when women suffered some kind of violence. It was the distress call of a terrified 6-year-old girl who did not want her mother to suffer again. She acted quickly after seeing the girl's distress signal, approached her boss and whispered, "Charlie, I was right. Call the police right now. That little girl has drawn a red X on her hand. She's screaming for help." "What?" The man, aware of the seriousness of what was happening, immediately went to the kitchen to call the police and explain what was going on. Luckily, there was a police station just a couple of miles from the restaurant, so it took the police just 15 minutes to arrive on the scene and resolve the situation. They had to deal with an extra problem, though. Seeing the police enter, the husband panicked, pulled out a small pistol hidden in the back of his pants, and pointed it at his wife. "If you don't let me leave, this will end very badly for her," he shouted, holding his wife by the arm and pointing the gun directly at her. The police, who were used to dealing with similar situations, called for reinforcements and managed to neutralize the husband without any problems. The man, seeing himself surrounded and without a way out, ended up surrendering, although he kept shouting all sorts of things about the exploitation of power by the authorities. And "it's always the women's fault," until his cries were finally drowned out when he was put in the patrol car. Once the problem with the husband had been resolved, the police were able to calmly question the wife and the girl, who did not hesitate to testify to all that they had had to endure for years at the hands of this man. "My dad is a bad man. He always makes Mom cry. I'm tired of my mom being sad," explained the girl. "Very sad." The waitress then gently took the girl's hand and showed it to the agents to explain why she had decided to call them. She explained the distress signal, an X made with red lipstick. The policemen were stunned. "I did it in the bathroom with Mom's lipstick. I saw it on TV. It's for when Daddy hurts us. Did I do it right?" the little girl revealed, her face wet. "You did perfect, little girl. It's all over now. You're safe," said one of the agents, comforting her. The woman hugged her little girl, grateful and relieved. After a few tense hours in the cafeteria, the police returned with news of the man's situation. They informed the woman and her daughter that he would remain in custody and that an investigation would be opened to proceed with the judicial process. With this assurance, mother and daughter embraced, relieved to finally be free of the torment and violence they had suffered at the hands of that hateful man. Mother and daughter returned home, beginning to rebuild their lives away from the violent man who tormented them. The mother, now more determined than ever, promised to create a safe and loving environment for her little girl. Carrie, for her part, felt a mixture of relief and pride for having played a crucial role in saving those two poor souls. A sad story she would never forget, and one that reminds us of the importance of paying attention to the signs when something is wrong, especially in public places. Do you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.